to talk about introduction to the clash of values. Introduction to the clash of values. So the type of debate that we are doing is value debate. We are value debating, meaning that we're taking two ideas and holding them against one another, right? We've talked about what values are, right? We've talked about that values are ideas. They're not facts. They're kind of an idea. We hold one idea up against another idea. So we're going to talk about how do we debate them, because the way you win debate rounds in value debate is by debating the values. So, try at the top of the sheet, both the affirmative and negative will present a value and value criterion. So a value, you don't have to write this down, value and a value criterion. Value and value criterion. So the value is the goal that we seek to reach. The goal that we seek to reach. So let's think about the resolution that we started the class with. So we talked about a basketball coach. You have to pick all what? What kind of players, Ricky? Tall or short basketball players. What's the goal of any basketball team? Bob, what's the goal of any basketball team? To win. To win. So you want to win, right? Get wins. Alright, so that's our goal. Now, what's the value criterion? The value criterion is how we measure if we've reached the goal. How we measure if we've reached the goal. Devontae, how do you know whether you won a basketball game? You score? No. So you score, and what does the other team do?
Try to defend.
So they try to defend, but how do you know? So how do you know whether or not the New Orleans Hornets won their game? What do you look at?
I get a text on my phone.
And what does the text say?
That they won.
How do you know that they won, other than the text?
Score.
The score. So what's the score say? That they got what? More or less points? More points. So they get more points. So scoring more points. So scoring more points is the measurement of a win, correct? Any questions on that? Basic basketball knowledge. You win a basketball game by scoring more points, right? Everybody clear on that? So that's all a value and value criterion are. A value criterion is simply a way to measure whether or not you've reached the goal. So if we're talking about basketball, the way you measure it is whether you scored more points than your opponent. That's how you know if you won. So that's all that value debate really is asking about how do we measure reaching this goal that is our value. So debate is going to focus on which value is more important. Which value is more important. That's what your debate's going to actually focus on. The debate itself, that you're going to, every Lincoln Douglas value debate round you're in is going to focus on which value is more important. It's going to focus on which value criterion best evaluates the resolution. And it focuses on each contention. Each contention. Because it's important. And how is it important? The impact. Because of the value criterion. So every contention you say. So what's one of the points you made, Devontae, about why tall basketball players, or by small basketball players, by short is better than tall?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump.
They can jump more. And so that means that they are better able to score points and win games, right? That's how you would apply it. So your contentions need to apply to the value criterion and the value. So that's how the debate actually happens. That's what your debates are going to focus on. Bob.
I can see mine?
What? In a bit. We're gonna go through all yours. Cool. Alright, so how do you win the debate round? A winner is going to show three different things. So we have a value and a value criterion in the debate round. In order to win the debate round, you need to show three different things. Winners show three different things. Winners are going to show three different things. So the winner of a debate round is going to show first that their value is superior. That their value is superior to their opponent's value. So you want to say my value is here, their value is here. So if, let's say we were going back to our picking short or tall basketball players. If one team says my goal is to win games and the other team says my goal is to look good on the basketball court, which value is more important, do you think? The win, exactly. So looking good and playing good might be good, but if you had to pick looking good or winning, most of us are going to take the wins, right? So showing that your value is superior is a good way to win the debate round. The second thing you're going to do is show that your criterion is a better way to measure than the opponent's. So what if both teams said winning is the measure of the value that we have in this debate round? But one team says, I'm going to measure whether we win by scoring more points than the other team, and the other team says, I'm going to measure whether we win by how many fouls a team has in the game. What's a better way to measure who's winning the game?
The score.
The score, exactly. So that's the second thing, showing your value criterion is better. And the third thing is to again show that your contentions better support your value in criterion. So that's the third way to win. So the first thing is to show you that your value is superior. The second, that your value criterion is a better way to evaluate the round. And the third is that your contentions better uphold your value and value criterion than the other team. Questions so far? Clear? Everybody got it? Okay. So why is a value superior? How are you going to show that your value is superior to someone else's value? What are the ways you're going to do it? The first thing you're going to look to is the resolution text. The resolution text. So in our basketball resolution, it says pick all short or tall basketball players for your basketball team. So basketball teams' goals are, like we've already said, to win games, right? And so if the resolution is talking about basketball, then we probably want to think about what do basketball teams exist to play a game and to win the game. They don't exist to go out and win beauty pageants. They don't exist to go and win soccer games. They exist to win basketball games, right? So if we're trying to decide whether we want all tall or all short players on our basketball team, we aren't asking which one is better able to catch a football. That doesn't matter. And so the resolution text is the first way we can decide whether or not one value is a better value to use. The second thing is we can ask if the value is related to the resolution. And so again, the relationship to the resolution matters. So the debate team who shows that a basketball team's objective is to win games is going to be much more on board than the one talking about them looking good, right? So relationship to the resolution. The resolution text, maybe the basketball resolution explicitly says tall basketball players are better than short basketball players for assisting their communities. Well, so then the goal is obviously assisting the community. But our resolution just says that you're a basketball coach, pick it. So obviously we're talking about winning games. The next thing we're going to skip down is we're going to say that a value encompassed by your opponent's value. So a value that is encompassed by your opponent's value is weaker. So if one team says I want to win, and the way I'm going to do that is by scoring more points than my opponents, and then the other team says their value is to win, but their criterion is simply to prevent their opponent from scoring as many points as possible. Well, preventing your opponent from scoring is part of outscoring your opponents, right? And so those two things just go together. And so that's the idea here. It's encompassed in the value. And the last thing is you can subsume. Subsume. So this is showing that your value achieves your opponent's value as well. So for example, you could say that life, the value of life is superior, so is more important than liberty, because if you're not alive, even if you have a really free society, if you're dead, you don't get to enjoy it. Right? So that's the way you can think about subsuming. So if I get up in a debate round and I say that my value subsumes yours, what I might be saying is, in our basketball example, that wins are a part of the game, even if your value is to provide a benefit to the community. Let's say that's what you say. Well, you say, well, winning basketball games is an important aspect of being a benefit to your community, because a team that loses lots of games doesn't help the community. I mean, you can think back to the people who used to go to Saints games with paper bags over their heads. People were not thinking how great it is to have the New Orleans Saints here as a team. They were kind of disappointed to have that team. But that's not how it is anymore, right? So wins actually help the community. All right, flip the sheet over. Backside. Talk through this quickly. Any questions so far? How to debate the value and criterion. So this is the how-to. Pay close attention to this, because the exercise we're about to do requires you to pay attention to these things, because these are the steps we're actually going to take in our exercise. We're going to use the things we've already written down about the basketball team, and we're going to apply that to the round that we're The values and criterion are the first thing that you discuss. The value and criterion are the first thing that you discuss. If you want to win, if you win the value war, then you're going to win the round. If you can prove that the more important value is the one that you are arguing under, you're going to win the round. So if your value is justice and your opponent's value is social welfare, and you prove that justice is the more important value than social welfare, who's going to win the round to you?
What was the question?
So if your value is justice, your opponent's value is social welfare, and you prove that justice is more important than social welfare, who's going to win?
Social welfare.
You. Exactly. So at the point that you put your value here and their value here, you're going to win. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
So the first thing you're going to discuss is the value. If you win the value war, you're going to win the round. The next thing you want to talk about is what's good about your value. What's good about your value and what's good about your criterion.
Oh.
So if we're talking about back to our basketball example, what's good about our value? Well, wins is what a basketball team is supposed to do, and a team that wins more games is going to win more championships. And the team that scores more points, because scoring points is part of our criterion, is going to be the better basketball team. Right? And so this is a better value than other things. It's a good value. It's a good way to evaluate what kind of basketball player we want to pick. The next thing you want to do is talk about what's wrong with their value and what's wrong with their criterion. So if their value is helping in the community instead of winning basketball games, you might say that's interesting, but the goal of a basketball game really is to win. It's not just to go out and do community service. And that might be a good thing, but the most important thing a big basketball team needs to do, especially if you're the coach trying to decide, is to worry about winning games. And so showing how their value is wrong and how their criterion is wrong. The next thing you want to do is show why your value is better. So 3 different things you're doing. You're saying my value is good, their value is bad, and my value is better than theirs. So not only is winning important, and maybe community service is not something we should worry about for a basketball team, but that if we have to weigh the two between one another, winning the games should always matter more than community service for a basketball team. So that's how the making it better matters. Finally, can the arguments that you make, can your contentions still hold even under their value and criterion? So this is the best way to wrap up the round. If you can say, Judge, here are my value and criterion. I want to win basketball games, and to do that I'm going to score more points. Their value and criterion is to help out in the community. But you know what? Even if we're going to talk about helping out in the community, my value or my contentions about short basketball players are faster. Maybe they also happen to be people who are faster in dealing with disasters in the local community. And so you point out how your choice, your side of the story, still wins even under their world. So even though they have a bad way to evaluate the round, you say, I still can win under that. So that's the next step. Finally, impact every argument to the values and criteria. Every argument. So every time you make an argument, think about the value and criterion. So if you're saying, I disagree with their point that juveniles who are put in with adults will become hardened criminals, talk about how that then impacts back to your value of justice in your affirmative case. Right? Or if you're on the negative and you say, I disagree with the affirmative argument that we need to keep, that it's unconstitutional to put a 17-year-old violent offender with a 13-year-old juvenile offender. That's not true, and because that's not unconstitutional, we should look to my value of social justice, or social welfare, because social welfare is going to be more important in this round. Make sense? So impacted. So there's the 2 examples there below. Tall players are able to block shots so they can stop their opponents from scoring. That's the criteria. And they can stop their opponents from winning. which is the value. So talking about both. Or nations that uphold their constitutions have legitimate governments, which are a necessary step to achieve a just society. Right? So that's the justice value and government legitimacy criterion. Okay, last. Don't stop talking about the value and criterion, ever. All around long, that's what you should be talking about. Make them your first voting issue. Make them your first voting issue. So when you tell the judge why the judge should vote for you, it should be your value. Saying, I won the value war. My value is better than theirs for these reasons. My criterion better evaluates this round. Let's go with my voters. And lastly, you're going to apply these value and value criterion to all the other voting issues.